Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this story, Naruto is a one-man team. After graduating from the academy, Naruto starts to reveal his true self. Won't everyone be surprised at what the demon can do? Powerful Naruto X Harem. Be sure to check the description for the creator of the great fanfic and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. Now let's start the story. Chapter 8. What matters most? Disclaimer. Still not rich, so still don't own Naruto. I would just like to point out that this will have a lengthy recap of the wave mission in it as a debriefing for those involved. Sorry about that, but I felt it needed to be done. Also, I may try to proofread the next chapter a bit early since this one is a little dull. One last thing, if people want, as of now there have been 3 ninja OCs mentioned and there are OCs on the council. Let me know in your review. Throughout their trip home, the silence was only broken by Kakashi as he gave the rare perverted giggle as he read his book. Kiba managed to release one as well when he was able to read a few lines over the Jonin's shoulder before he was told to pay attention to where he was going just in time to miss the tree he was headed for. Other than that, the only action that took place were the glares that Sakura and Sasuke sent between their sensei and the two at the rear of the group. It had only taken until the bridge was out of sight for Sasuke's smile to be wiped away as he realized that both his sensei and his new rival had gotten more attention than him. Sakura just picked up on his mood and followed like an obedient puppy. Naruto and Haku paid no attention though as they sped through the trees in a straight line towards Konoha. They decided that the forest would be the best place to travel now that all of the genin knew how to stick to the trees. It was less of a risk that way than to be seen traveling the roads, and truth be told they had all had enough action for a while. When they were close enough to the village they dropped down to the road before entering so as to not arouse suspicion. After all, any person seen coming or leaving via any means other than the main gate was to be treated as an enemy nin until proven otherwise. So unless someone had a great desire to meet the Konoha interrogation squad, it was advised that everyone use the main gate. Upon seeing the group entering, the 2 chunin at the guard post waved them over. Good afternoon Kakashi-san. We would have let you pass freely but there seems to be an unfamiliar face among your group. As visitors must sign in, we'll be forced to hold you here until she does. Meh, go ahead Kakashi-san. I'll make sure Haku-chan gets signed in. After all she is under my protection, and since you aren't my sensei you have no obligation to stay. I'll see you at the Hokage office for debriefing soon. Naruto motioned them to continue on, noticing Kakashi's forceful hand on Sasuke's shoulder as he led his team away. Turning back towards the 2 chunin and Haku, he took her step by step through the sign in process before making their way to the Hokage tower. Little did they know that it was all the delay that Kiba would need to start the next small upset in Naruto's life. During their walk to the tower, Kakashi's team encountered one pale-eyed Hyuga heiress as she was walking towards the gate. Signaling that he needed a couple seconds, Kiba bounded over to her before anyone could object. Leaning down he whispered in her ear. You may want to greet your boyfriend and his new woman. I hear they even slept together during our mission. I know this probably hurts, but if you need someone to talk to, I'm always available. Grinning he went back to his team and they continued to the tower, leaving a dumbstruck Hinata standing in the middle of the street not knowing what to do. Kiba, what did you say to Hinata? Kakashi fixed a glare on the boy who shrunk back a bit but stood his ground. Personal business Kakashi-sensei. Don't worry about it. Though he knew it was nothing good, there was nothing Kakashi could do about it. Their mission was over and what was said couldn't be a threat to anything that happened already. Sighing he continued on. Due to that small delay they met up with Naruto and Haku as they were about to enter the tower. Oi, I thought you would already be inside. What kept you? Kiba-kun had to stop and talk to Hinata about something that apparently couldn't wait. Kakashi again fixed the boy with a glare followed by Naruto and Haku, but his own grin was mirrored on the faces of Sasuke and Sakura. Something is not going to end well soon. Before any fights could break out in the middle of the street, Kakashi ushered them all inside. As they made their way up the steps, Haku tried to comfort Naruto any way she could. Since this is most likely about us, I'll go with you to help sort out whatever, he said to her. Thank you Haku-chan. He would have smiled if he didn't have such a bad feeling in the pit of his stomach. That would have to wait until later though as they knocked on the door to the Hokage's office before being allowed to enter. So I take it the mission to wave went alright, and I see there is a new face with you Kakashi-kun. Care to explain? Sarutobi rose an inquiring eyebrow at the man, urging him to spit out the results. Hokage-sama. The mission was a success. The bridge builder Tazuna was escorted and kept safe until the completion of the bridge to Wave. On the way we met up with the two missing nin called the Demon Brothers. Once they were taken care of, we found that Wave was currently being held under the watchful eye of the tyrannical shipping merchant Gato and mercenaries under his hire. After the encounter with the Demon Brothers, we were unfortunate enough to encounter the missing nin Zabuza alias Demon of the Mist. During the fight, Naruto-san showed up and saved me from the Suiro no Jutsu I managed to get caught in. The fight ended in a draw as Zabuza escaped with the help of an assistant, though injured, and we were unable to pursue due to my chakra exhaustion. We were able to later neutralize Zabuza and his assistant along with Gato and the mercenaries he had brought with him. Afterward, a few of us were able to find an encampment of mercenaries that were prepaid to attack the village of Wave, and were able to neutralize them as well, thus completing the ongoing protection from Gato for the remainder of the mission. Kakashi bowed after his explanation, signaling his completion. The Hokage turned towards Naruto. Do you have anything to add, Naruto-kun? Hi, however there are too many ears at the moment for my report. Hiruzen rose an eyebrow at this, then the other when he saw Kakashi lower his head. Okay then. Does anyone else have anything to add before you are dismissed? Sasuke stepped forward, earning a groan from a few of those gathered, which he ignored as he spoke. Hokage-san, I would like to. Sasuke, you will address Hokage-sama as his title dictates. Kakashi narrowed his eyes as he spoke to the back of Sasuke's head. Sasuke just let out a sniff of dismissal before continuing. As I was saying, I would like to bring to your attention that the backup you sent us was insufficient, unnecessary, and at least one point endangered the success of the mission at large. During a situation of heightened tension, Uzumaki Naruto made threatening advances on the sole survivor of a clan, namely myself. I demand that measures be taken to eliminate this action from happening again, including, but not limited to, detainment in a holding cell for an undetermined amount of time or removal from the shinobi ranks altogether. The killing intent in the room was beginning to raise and the majority was focused on the Uchiha. Though he was visibly sweating from it, he maintained his position and waited for a reply. After a moment of silence that was apparently too much for him to handle, he decided to pile more incriminating evidence against the blonde. Furthermore, because of his actions, both myself and one of my teammates were restrained for the remainder of the mission, causing one of the top clans in Konoha to be subjected to the humiliation of captivity by his own village. I demand that a similar treatment be sentenced upon those responsible for such action. Along with another long pause, Sasuke was quickly losing his temper. Answer me, damn it. Sasuke. You would dare speak to the Hokage like that? Remove yourself from this room before I remove you from it myself. Kakashi was in no mood to deal with this now. No. Sasuke-kun is right. Naruto Baka almost ruined everything, and because of him we were unreasonably restrained. He should be put away where he was always meant to be. By this point Naruto was starting to growl. The only thing keeping him from leaping at the two was Haku's hand on his shoulder. Before anyone could make the headache any bigger though, there was another person that a few of them forgot they were in the presence of. Silence. Everyone's head turned to the aged Hokage. He was old, yes, but the authority behind his voice was more than any of them could match. Uchiha Sasuke, if you ever address me with such a tone again, I will have you thrown in a cell for insubordination. That goes for your little outburst as well, Haruno Sakura. Kiba, Sasuke and Sakura, remove yourself from this office immediately. I have business that I need to finish with those remaining. Despite being yelled at by the most powerful ninja in the village, each of those were able to flash a grin to the blonde on their way out. Two of them knowing that by the end of the day he could very well find himself chained to a wall for risking the safety of the last of the Uchiha, while the last knew he would be in dire straits with Hinata soon enough. As the door shut, everyone let out a few deep breaths in an attempt to get their tempers under control. Sarutobi motioned for them to sit in the chairs before him. As they sat, Sarutobi fixed each with a glare before settling on Kakashi. Explain. It was only one word, but the threat behind it was unmistakable. Hokage-sama. From the first moment that Naruto-san showed up on this mission, Sasuke seemed to want to smear his name into the ground. When Naruto was injured by a random mercenary's blind attack, I assigned my team to treat him while I went after the man. Upon returning I found them not only not helping him, but also attempting to keep Tazuna and his family from aiding him as well. That night they had tried repeatedly to get to him while I was asleep for unknown actions according to Tazuna himself, who offered to stand watch and alert me if the others tried anything while I was asleep. The next morning they again showed distaste towards Naruto, though they did not come out and voice it openly. That morning the bridge was attacked by Zabuza and Haku with Gado's mercenaries and Gado himself making an appearance later. I sent Sasuke and Kiba after Haku while I myself took Zabuza and Sakura guarded Tazuna. I found out later that Sasuke had gotten into a bad situation and used Kawarimi with Kiba to get himself out of it, resulting in Kiba getting hit with the attack that was intended for the Uchiha. All three could see the anger forming on the old man's face as Kakashi's story unfolded. I will allow Naruto-san or Haku-san to fill in the gap there, as I was enshrouded in Zabuza's mist technique and wasn't able to see what was going on. He nodded to the two, signaling for them to take over. It was Haku who chose to speak first. Hokage-sama. I would first like to thank you for the excellence of some of your ninja, though certain others are not so worthy of praise. While I am none too taken with Kiba-san, at least he did not use his teammates to save his own skin. After the boy had been taken out by my first attack, the Uchiha spoke of it being an honor to be sacrificed for the sake of one of his breeding. I was disgusted, and for the first time in my life I felt that there was a person in front of me that was despicable enough to die by my hand. I used my strongest attack on him and wrought pain upon him using my Senbon to strike his pressure points. It didn't seem enough to give him a quick death, but when I decided to go in for the kill I was stopped by Naruto-kun. Haku nodded over to the blonde, signaling for him to continue with the story. Hokage Gigi, I first met Haku-chan in the forest near Wave prior to the bridge confrontation. During our confrontation I was able to discover that she had a memory modification seal on her neck. Naruto dug in his pocket for a second before pulling out a sheet of paper detailing the seal and handed it to the old man. I let her go at that point with the promise that I would give her back her memories. The morning of that encounter I woke up and soon found a disturbance in the house and found that some of Gado's lackeys were attempting to kidnap Tazuna-san's daughter and about to kill her son. After dealing with them I made it to the bridge in time to stop Haku-chan's attack. After she agreed to it I gave her a seal to null out the one on her neck. Again he pulled out a sheet of paper, this one with the temporary counter seal on it. I would have forced it on regardless, but she was trusting enough to apply it herself. He looked at Haku expecting her to want to continue, but by the look on her face she had no desire to relive that moment. She simply waved him to continue in her stead. To simplify it, Haku-chan found out Zabuza wasn't who she thought he was, and she ended up being the one to kill him. Once he was dead though, Gado showed up with his mercenaries. With Kakashi low on chakra, Kiba and Sasuke knocked out of commission, Sakura being, well, Sakura and Haku-chan still feeling the after effects of the temporary seal. I was the only one able to hold them off to any extent, as I had been given a little reprieve between my battle at the house and my arrival at the bridge. Creating clones I was able to take out or hold off the assault until Kakashi was well enough to join in. Shortly thereafter the villagers showed up to defend their homes and Gado decided to make his escape. Leaving Kakashi to defend the bridge, I went after Gado and relieved him of his need for breathing. When I returned to the bridge there were no more mercenaries left standing and only a few villagers had suffered injuries. Kakashi-san and Haku-chan were attending to Kiba and Sasuke while Sakura stood by crying. Kakashi jumped in at that point and continued for them. Sakura was angry with Haku-san for hurting Sasuke, so she attempted to attack her. She failed of course, but then there was another short argument when Sasuke and Kiba woke. Again ending with no casualties save for me knocking Sasuke unconscious for his own safety. Kiba was rather angry for what happened, and with Sasuke egging him on it could have ended badly had I not acted. So why knock Sasuke out and not Kiba? Sarutobi knew why, but he was juggling between happiness and anger now. It would be fun to see the man squirm a bit. He was closer. Anyway, Naruto-san made some clones to clean up the bridge while we guarded Tazuna-san, and he took Haku-san to the house. Before leaving he told me he would need to talk to me privately. After that he left and we watched as his clones sifted through what they could find and sealed it away. At one point Sasuke attacked one of the clones and attempted to take the scroll it had been sealing items into before I caught him and told him that because of his actions earlier he would be entitled to none of the items found. Of course he huffed about it, but there was little he could do when I placed myself between him and the clones. Naruto-kun, what was it that you were gathering from those men? The Hokage inquired. Weapons mostly, some documents, money, whatever they had that looked to be useful. Why take the time to seal all of that? Wouldn't it have been easier to dispose of it all instead of carrying it around? And just how good are you with seals? Whoa, one at a time here, Gigi. Let's see. For the first two, well, it's a habit I've grown into, I guess. I mean, we both know I'm not the richest of people, or the most popular for that matter. I learned the hard way not to take anything for granted. As you should already know from before, I collect anything of use or value. As for the last part, I'm no master, but I'm probably better than most people. It wasn't the most detailed answer, but he really didn't have anything to gauge it on. Anyhow, when we got back to the house I removed Haku-chan's memory seal permanently and let her rest while I took Kakashi-san aside. When I had killed Gato he was making a statement that killing him wouldn't matter. He gave me the impression that there could be another attack ready to hit wave from somewhere. After letting Kakashi-san know, and figuring out how to divide into the most capable teams, which Naruto was able to make a better composition of those available than myself, if I might add. Kakashi couldn't help but smile at the boy who grinned, sheepishly, back remembering their small bonding experience. Thank you, Kakashi-san. When we were done we noticed that it was far too quiet in the dining room, where the rest were gathered when I had pulled Kakashi aside. Naruto's smile left him once again. We both raced upstairs and were just in time to catch the kunai that Sasuke and Sakura were about to thrust into Haku-chan as she slept. Kakashi-san kept the bubblegum princess at bay while I kept Sasuke-tem from her. He didn't get the picture though and continued to attempt to attack her, at least until Kiba knocked him out. Kakashi followed up on soon after with his captive. After rearranging the groups in 2 teams of 2 we tied up the Uchiha and Haruno and set about a patrol rotation for the next 4 days until one of my clones finally found the mercenary encampment that I had guessed Gato was talking about. The tale was once again handed over to Kakashi. When Naruto came back with the location of the camp one left Kiba to guard the house instructing him to let the other 2 loose in case he would need backup. Haku-san, Naruto-san and myself assaulted the camp that night, and with precision that I can honestly say I have never seen on most Chunin teams, we planned our attack and decimated the enemy with few injuries to ourselves. The pride at this point was rolling off of him in waves. It was clear to Hiruzen that Kakashi would have loved to have these 2 on his team, but it was too late for that unfortunately as the teams were already formed. It was obvious that something would have to be done about Team 7 though. Just like Naruto had done earlier, Kakashi's attitude turned sour in remembrance of the next part of their story. We were all tired from the battle, but we made our way back to the house and that's when there was yet another turn from the perfect mission. With a small argument with the newly released duo, Sasuke once again attempted to attack Haku-san by rushing Naruto then ducking behind him to try to stab her with a dinner knife. He was only slightly foiled by Naruto showing the true purpose of Kawarimi, as he used it on Haku and took the hit for her. Luckily with their height difference he got struck in a non-lethal area. Naruto-san proceeded to knock Sasuke out of the house as his tenant began to act up. Hiruzen's expression now mirrored that of his guests. The council would not like hearing of this and he was sure that they would find out about it soon enough. I tried to stop him, but in the end it was Haku that got him to settle down. They looked at Haku who blushed strongly, not wanting to reveal what she said that night. She shook her head refusing to give them anything. Sarutobi smiled at her and waved her to him. She hesitated, but complied and was soon standing next to him. If you don't feel comfortable repeating it openly you may whisper it to me, but I need to know what you did to calm him down. His tenant isn't the most agreeable of things. Anything that can settle it is a very valuable piece of information to us, so please, share it with me. Haku blushed again but leaned down and cupped her hands so the others wouldn't see or hear. All they saw was her closing her eyes in embarrassment as Sarutobi's smile got wider. Thank you Haku-chan. You have no idea how glad I am to hear that from anyone. You may take your seat again. Once she was seated Kakashi continued. After that we tied up Sasuke and Sakura in separate rooms and posted a guard so there was no chance of them getting loose. The rest of the mission was pretty easy, with the only other mission relative event happening when Naruto sent clones to clean up our last battle and search for anything of use. After that was celebrations, then the journey home. They all looked towards Naruto for anything he might want to fill in. Well, first there are a few holes that I'll fill in with these few scrolls. These are the heads of Kafu Oba and Tamatsu Uesugi. The Hokage and Kakashi both rose an eyebrow at this while Haku wore a grin of pride. Kafu was a missing nin of Kurigakure, Jonin rank and rather famous for the sword I now carry apparently. Kakashi-san, Zabuza and Tamatsu seemed impressed with it at least. I admit he was a lucky kill as he never expected a genin to lure him into a trap. Just like I never expected a jonin to fall for it. Tamatsu on the other hand was easy for a chunin. He was with the lackeys that tried to kidnap Tsunami-san, but he tried to run when he saw the katana of his former comrade. He never really had a chance since the only jutsu he threw at me was easily avoided, and for a chunin level ninja he was rather slow. As for the clone search parties, he looked through a storage scroll he had before picking another scroll out of one of the seals. Here are all of the documents that I believe could have interesting information regarding the safety of the village. If you would like I can look into them along with that other project I have going on. Unless someone else is free to look through them now. He handed the scroll to the Hokage, who looked through it to find that, like the other scrolls he received from the boy, everything was categorized and organized. That is quite alright, Naruto-kun. I will find someone to look over this. We've finished our end of your other mission, so there are some people free to look at this now. Perhaps later they will go over your other findings as well. Oh, and that person has agreed to see you, so when you and they have time I will organize a meeting. Okay, Gigi-san. I'll make sure to contact you soon about that. Oh, Haku-chan, I almost forgot. I also have the Kubikiri Hako here if you want it, since you are the one who killed Zabuza, it's yours by rights. Haku cautiously took the scroll and stared at it for a few minutes before shaking her head and thrusting it back into Naruto's hands. No, I don't want anything to remind me of him. They could see the hurt in her eyes, so they didn't press the matter. Understanding her want for detachment from her former tormentor, he decided it would be best to find a way to dispose of the weapon despite his desire to keep it for its undoubted value. After pocketing the scroll holding the cleaver once more, Naruto turned back to the Sandaime. Well, back to the mission, though there is just one more thing to add to your attention. He brought out yet another scroll. I was able to find Gato's base of operations in Wave. This holds the documentation taken from that place. The food stores and money that was held there I split amongst the people of Wave, since it was mostly theirs anyway. Gato kept extensive logs of all his dealings. It seems he was a bit obsessive over where all his money came from and went to, so it was rather easy to get everyone their money back. At the bottom of the scroll you will find what they would have owed for an S-ranked mission. You may not have listed it as such, but there was more than enough money left to cover the cost. Other than that, you should find some interesting bits of information in there. I think that about sums it up, Gigi-san. All that is left is Haku-chan's status and what you plan on doing with her. Going through the new scroll, Sarutobi was very pleased with what he was seeing. It seemed Gato made dealings in many enemy countries, including Iwa, Kumo and the new village of Otogakure. There were also extensive notes about exactly what was being traded where and with whom. Some of it was unsettling, but it was better than being misinformed, or worse, not knowing at all. Setting that aside, he turned his attention to the only female in the room. Yes, Haku-chan. I will not be able to save you from some minor questioning, but due to you having had altered, and recently released, memories coupled with the fact that you assisted greatly on a mission against those that you were originally partnered with, it should be no more than we normally would do for someone who simply wishes to switch villages. I know you could technically be listed as a traitor, but with no village affiliation you are not a missing nin, nor can we justly label you as a traitor of a village that doesn't exist. However, to save you from being listed as a civilian traitor, I would like to enlist you as a kunoichi of Konoha if you would like to. Your skills are quite obviously higher than an academy student. As long as you can do the graduation test and agree to pledge loyalty to this village, I will instate you as a genin rank kunoichi and put you on the only team that has an available spot. He grinned and nodded to Naruto. Haku's eyes went wide as they started to moisten. Hi. Hokage-sama, I would be honored to be a ninja of Konohagakure. She bowed down before the man who was giving her a place to call home. She then turned to Naruto and bowed to him as well. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Without your help I would have never known anything but a life on the run. I owe you, more than you can imagine. She rushed over to him and hugged him tightly. Haku-chan, don't worry about it. To see someone saved from a living hell and be allowed happiness is more than enough of a reward for me. Now if you'll excuse me, Hokage-sama, Kakashi-san, Haku-chan. There are some things that I have missed immensely while I was gone, and I would like to attend to them now. With a nod from the old man he bowed and left the office. Well, he never ceases to amaze, does he? The Hokage smiled as he watched the door close before making a small note on a scroll. Well, back to business, Kakashi, before you get too settled, please take Haku-chan to the interrogation department with this note. Make sure it's not Enko that gets this. I get enough sob stories from the prisoners about her, I don't need any from our allies. Chuckling, Kakashi led a suddenly nervous Haku out of the room and left Hiruzen to his thoughts. Never ceases to amaze indeed. Just how far can you go, Naruto? Shaking his head, he got back to the real issue that would be headed his way soon enough. When Kakashi's team sees Naruto walking around freely, someone was bound to show up, and more than likely that someone would be with a summons to a council meeting. With that in mind, he brought out a few fresh scrolls and began writing. If they were going to call him into a meeting over this, he was going to be prepared. Naruto rushed through the streets of Konoha intent on finding his target. Under a guise, he had visited the Hyuga and found out that Hinata was somewhere out in the village. He had spent almost an hour already trying to find her, but to no avail. Deciding that it might be a good idea to shower a bit before searching further, he made his way to his apartment only to find the one he was seeking crouched at his door with her head buried in her knees. Hinata-chan. He heard a sob before she rose her head to reveal a tear-streaked face. Hinata. What happened? Did someone hurt you? Tell me who and I'll make them apologize. She stood as he got closer. Hinata, please, tell me what's wrong. I want to help you, please let me help you. He repeated almost frantically. Smack, he was stunned. Shy Hinata, his girlfriend, smacked him across the face and was now glaring at him. He took a half step back from surprise, but she closed the distance and got right into his face. You swine. Lowlife, cheating baka. How could you? I thought you finally accepted me and now I find out that you went running around with some hussy while you were away on a mission. Hinata-chan, it wasn't like that. I swear. Naruto tried to start an explanation, but she wasn't going to let him get that far. With his shock at her harsh words, he left too large of an opening for her to continue her assault. You slept with her. Oh, that's not good. You took a knife to the chest for her. Not good at all. I thought I knew you, but I was wrong. You are the most vile person ever. Naruto was now the one in tears as each word cut into him deeper than any knife. Hinata-chan. Don't you ever call me that again. You have no right to even think of my name. You are despicable scum. Don't even think you are worthy of. Smack. Neither of them had seen it coming. Now Hinata was the one who was stunned speechless as she slowly put her hand to her reddening cheek and looked into the eyes of her assaulter. Pale lavender eyes, still red from crying, met deep brown eyes that showed anger and pity. How dare you belittle him? If you think so little of him, it's you who aren't worthy. You. Hinata's eye turned from stunned to furious as she realized who this new person was. You, she repeated with more hatred behind it. You're the hussy that took Naruto-kun away from me. You slept with him and pranced around with him. Well, I hope you're happy knowing that he left one to be with another. I hope you can live knowing he could do it again with you as the victim. She turned to leave but was forced to turn back as a strong hand pulled her arm around. Let's get some things straight here, little girl. Yes, we slept in the same futon, but it was me that crawled in with him, while he was asleep, and we did nothing but sleep. As soon as he was awake, he freaked out and told me that he was with you. Like a gentleman, he stayed turned around until I got dressed. He took a knife for me because it was the right thing to do. He is kind enough to not let a comrade or a friend die in front of him if he can help it. Had you been the target, I know he would have done the same. He defended you against those other two boys on Kakashi's team numerous times, and no matter how many advances I made, he turned me down because he already had you. I bet it was that mutt that told you about it too. At Hinata's wince, it was obvious where her information came from. If you are that stupid to take the word of someone else over his, then maybe he is better off with me. At least I will trust him enough to not take the word of someone else without hearing his side too. Come on Naruto-kun, let's go. I think we've seen enough of this one's true colors. I swear with every new person I meet in this place it tarnishes my view of a ninja, or a human. She turned to leave, grabbing Naruto's arm as she passed while Hinata sank to her knees with new tears streaming down her face. He never abandoned me and I just tore out his heart. She's right, I don't deserve him. He's been hurt so much and I just added to it. I'm sorry Naruto-kun. I'm so sorry. No. Haku jerked a bit as Naruto's unmoving body forced her to stop. Come on Naruto-kun, you can show me around the village. No. He shook out of her grip and slowly made his way forward. Sinking to his knees he gently took Hinata's head in his hands and rose her face to meet his eyes. I won't leave my Hinata-chan like this. I love her too much for it to end. With renewed hope Hinata met his eyes just in time to see him get far too close for her to see him properly. She tried to move her head back to keep him in her vision, but was stopped from moving at all when she felt something touch her lips. It took her another moment to register what was happening, but she soon realized that it was his lips touching hers. He was kissing her, actually kissing her. Her heart fluttered as it beat faster as she held onto him, trying to get closer, as close as she possibly could. She was still in turmoil that she had said such mean things to him, but he was accepting her back even though she slapped him and yelled such deceitful things at him. Bringing up the memories of what she had just said made her falter and try to pull away, breaking the kiss as she turned her head in embarrassment and self-loathing. Naruto wouldn't have it though as he wound his arms around her and pulled her tightly to him. Never scare me like that again Hinata-chan. I would face down all of Konoha before I would want to hear such things come out of your mouth again. Naruto-kun. Sniff, she was alright. I don't deserve you. Please never leave me. Won't ever doubt you again. Hinata couldn't take it anymore as she buried her face in his chest and sobbed. They stayed like that in the middle of the hall for a few minutes until they were forced back to reality. Cough. If you two are finished I would still like a tour of this village. Both teens blushed as they looked sheepishly at Haku before sighing. Naruto recalled why he was at his apartment in the first place. Well, I would like to take a shower first if you don't mind. We did just get back from a mission after all. Oh, by the way, Hinata, this is Haku-chan. Haku-chan, this is my girlfriend Hinata-chan. It's nice to finally meet you Hinata-san, though I hope you're not always so quick to jump to conclusions. I would say I'd join you Naruto-kun, but I don't think Hinata-san would like that very much. Haku grinned at the girl's attempt at an angry expression. Since she just finished crying and was still hugging onto Naruto tightly, it turned out as more of a possessive pout instead. I will show Haku-san around while you get cleaned up Naruto-kun. Besides, I have some things I want to talk with her about. We'll come back later and maybe get something to eat together. Hinata's eyes never left Haku, causing Naruto to give a small nervous chuckle. Oh okay Hinata. I'll leave a clone here in case I need to go out. Try not to kill each other, please. He slowly unlocked and backed into his apartment, keeping them both in his view until he had to shut the door. The entire time neither of them moved or even looked away from the other. Sighing, he settled for his fate of not knowing and just prayed that he wouldn't find weapons stuck through the wall when he reopened the door after he was done. He made his way to his bathroom, creating a clone on the way just in case it would need to hop out and stop any bloodshed. After so much mental stress in the past month, he really needed some time to clean off and meditate. Out in the hall, Haku and Hinata were still staring at each other until the latter suddenly bowed, surprising Haku. Thank you Haku-san. I was blinded by my emotions at the possibility of losing the one I had sought after for so long and almost made the biggest mistake of my life. I was foolish to take Kiba-san's word at face value without conferring with Naruto-kun before I acted, but when I saw him my emotions at the thought of being rejected took control. If you hadn't come I would have lost the better part of my life, so thank you for setting things right. I will never be able to repay the debt I owe to you. You really do love him, don't you? Not that I can't see why. He really is a great guy. Loyal to a fault and thinks of others over himself, even when those others are opposing him. I can easily say that my life would be much different had he not helped me. Your boyfriend there freed me from a life that was little more than servitude. Without his help I would be either dead right now, or still not know the truth of my past. It's true that I tried to force myself on him, even after knowing he had you, but you can't really blame me for that. You would be hard-pressed to find someone so great. Haku turned silent and hung her head. There seemed to be no place for her here even though she was finally free of her pseudo-past. He is my one and only. Even though I recently found out that I know nearly nothing about him at all, he was the one I got my strength from in my drive to get through my academy days. I would see him constantly striving to practice, and though I am sure that was all an act now, back then it was still an example of someone trying to overcome the fate they were given. When I finally got to know him after we graduated he was a completely different person, but in a weird way he was still the same. He didn't strive for attention as much, but the same confidence was there, stronger than ever. It was like his age doubled and he was suddenly overqualified for his rank yet humble enough to stay on the level of the rest of us. He gives me more strength now than he ever gave me before and I couldn't imagine being without him, even though I almost forced myself to do just that a few minutes ago. Both girls were slightly blushing at their memories of the blonde. Haku was the first to come out of her little trance and back to reality. Well, anyway, how about the tour? If I'm going to live here I'll need to know where to get food, clothes, gear and I'll really need to find a place to stay. Hokage-sama said I can use a donated apartment for a couple months, but I'm going to have to get a place for myself soon. Oh, you also might like to know that I'll be on a team with Naruto-kun, so I'll be sure to watch his back. That way you won't have to worry about him not coming home from a mission. Also, there are a few other things you might want to know about his strength. He took out 2 missing nin on that mission, one Jonin level and the other Chunin. He also has some weird fascination with collecting anything of use. You really need to see the katana he got off that Jonin though. He has it sealed away right now, but it's black with a red sheath. It's a bit long for him but the sight of it is more than enough to give a good scare. He also seems to have some hideout in the village that no one but himself and the Hokage know about. Hinata was stunned. She knew Naruto was strong, but to take on a Jonin level missing nin as a genin would be suicide. Naruto-kun, just how strong are you really? That aside she was a bit let down that Haku got to be on his team, but as long as she didn't try to steal Naruto from her it would be fine. Over the next couple hours the two girls made their way around, stopping every now and then as Hinata pointed out the main areas of the village. She had never really gone into most of the places before getting together with Naruto. Being a main branch Hyuga meant that she never really had to do her own shopping. That was one of the things that she and Naruto did together now though, and she loved it. He even bought her some new clothes as a gift, though she couldn't wear them except for in the privacy of her own room. Even so it was a nice gesture. The only place that she couldn't show Haku was where to find a place to live as she had never had the need to do so. With little else to do they had just mingled around for a bit. Getting to know one another. Naruto aside they found they had a few things in common themselves. Among them was their main focus of interest, healing, specifically herbal remedies and ointments. Trading ideas and self-taught remedies to each other, they slowly made their way back to Naruto's apartment. They soon found themselves outside of his room knocking on his door waiting for an answer. The door opened revealing Naruto, which Hinata was about to embrace, but before she could she saw his eyes widen as she heard a thud right before a cloth was set over her mouth and nose making her lightheaded before darkness took her. After he was cleaned Naruto decided to head to his hideout for a quick stop. It was getting towards dinner time, so no one would be around the entrance as they would be preparing meals, or getting ready for a night out. He was proven correct as he easily slipped into his domain. Only a few clones were made this time so he wouldn't defeat the purpose of his being here. As they got to work sorting through the paperwork he had laying around concerning the notes from Orochimaru's lair, he set himself on an oversized pillow and began his meditation. It wasn't until a couple of hours later that he was snapped out of his trance as a clone dispelled. It took a while to sift through all the information, but when he did he was in a panic. Faster than ever he bolted out into the waning light and towards his apartment. He didn't even stop to see if the door was locked as he slammed through it into the room. Inside he found a bound and gagged Hinata and Haku. Both were unconscious but alive and looked unharmed. Quickly untying them he tried shaking them awake. When that didn't work he made a clone and hoisted them on his back before taking off to the hospital. The nurse at the lobby desk was jolted out of her nail filing when the loud crash of the front door slamming open signaled someone was in a hurry. When she looked up, her lips pursed in distaste. "And what do you want here?" She glared hard at the boy, not even seeming to notice his companions. "Shut the hell up and get me 2 beds. I found these 2 unconscious and tied up. Now get them some help before I do it myself, and I promise that I won't be nearly as careful about it as you would." She was about to retort when she noticed who it was he was carrying. "Just what did you do to them, you monster?" She hurried over and grabbed them, none too gently, off his backs to get them away from him as soon as possible. "Rest assured I will let Hokage-sama know what you've done. Just shut up and get them some help." Naruto screamed at her before speeding out the door towards the Hokage building. He was coming up to the base of the tower as 4 Anbu-dressed ninja dropped around him. He scowled at them. "Get the hell out of my way. You are a tricky one, Uzumaki Naruto. You slipped away from us last time, but we won't fall for the same tricks twice," one of them stated. It was then that Naruto took in their attire. They looked just like the 4 that had tried to take him before his mission to Wave. "So, you're the dogs of that guy Danzo, huh? Sorry to disappoint you, but I have no plans on seeing any more of him than my clone already has." He readied himself for a fight. 4, possibly Anbu-ranked ninja, against one of him. The odds weren't good, but he would give it his best shot, cause he'd be damned if he'd go quietly. Taking a kunai in each hand, he twirled one around before throwing it straight at one of the men. His target easily dodged and rushed in. Naruto ducked around the man, barely missing the grabbing hand that was aimed at him and rolling under the following chop to his neck. He was now facing the 4 ninja with his back to the building and all exits cut off. "Looks like you backed yourself into a corner. Not so hot when we know your tricks are you. And for the record, your aim is far under ninja standards." They would have laughed, but their strict training would not allow them such emotions. "Danzo-sama will have a word with you whether you want or not, boy." A new voice joined the conversation along with the sound of numerous feet hitting the ground directly behind the 4 ninja. "No, I don't think Danzo will be getting his little conference today. And for the record, I would say his aim was dead on, root scum." The now identified root ninja turned to face those who now surrounded them. 8 real Anbu flanked one very pissed off Hokage as they took a step back. "For being involved with an unauthorized organization, you are all to be placed in the interrogation department's cells until further notice. I'm sure Ibiki and Anko will be more than happy to accommodate you." As the Anbu stepped forward to take the root ninja into custody, they attempted to shunshun away only to find that they couldn't move. Thus, instead of going to a safe distance for retreat, they ended up cursing the Nara that they were now held in place by. One of them managed to have enough time to turn around and find their target standing there with a grin on his face. "I wouldn't look so smug, boy. He will get what he wants, and next time the Hokage won't be around to save you. You're just lucky that he happened to find out about your little distress in time. Root-san. I am no more lucky at getting help as you were unlucky at getting caught. 1 genin against 4 highly trained ninja isn't that fair of a fight. I simply had to even the odds. Did you know that an attack, no matter how small, on the Hokage tower sends an immediate alarm to the Hokage and the Anbu headquarters? By the way, Hokage-sama, I apologize for using the defenses for personal reasons, but I will let you know how valid they are when we are in a more suitable environment. I don't think you want half of Konoha knowing what is happening in its shadows." He gestured behind them, bringing into attention the crowd that had gathered and was now staring at them. Anything that brought a cage to an encounter was bound to be important after all. "Anbu, show our guests to their accommodations. Naruto-kun, let's go." With the orders made, all parties disappeared as Naruto and Sarutobi made their way to the office yet again. Once in the safety of the room, Naruto was about to activate the security seals once again when the door burst open, throwing Naruto to the side. "Hokage-sama." The female made a quick bow before continuing. "I am sorry for the intrusion, but I felt it was important to notify you of a recent incident. I realize you must be busy with whatever event just happened, but that boy just barged into the hospital with 2 poisoned ladies. One of which was the Hyuga heiress Hyuga Hinata. Whatever he did to those 2, we are lucky we got to them when we did. They wouldn't have lasted much longer otherwise. Hokage-sama, something must be done about him. This has gone far past pranks. Taking a moment to breath, she was about to continue her rant when she was stopped by the risen hand of the Hiruzen. Yoshike-san, did you perchance inquire as to why said girls were brought there by the boy you claim assaulted them? Well, he brought them there and then ran off, so I hadn't gotten the chance to send him to the interrogation department. If we can find him, then it should take little effort to get him to confess. Were there any other injuries aside from the poison? There were marks from ropes. He no doubt had them bound somewhere before he decided they suffered enough. Hokage saw. Once again a conversation was interrupted as an Anbu phased into the office and knelt before the desk. Hokage-sama, your presence is requested in the council chamber, along with your guests. With a nod from his leader, the Anbu disappeared. The nurse, after taking in the Anbu's words, looked around to find a rather pissed off Genin resting against the wall in the corner nursing a growing bump on his head. She took a step back only to run into the hand of the Hokage. Yoshike-san, Naruto-kun, if you would both follow me, it would seem we have business that needs attending to. Naruto-kun, prepare yourself and try to stay calm please. I don't need a massacre to be added to the rest of my paperwork today. Said boy was currently taking deep breaths as he slowly stood and followed the two adults out the door, and over to the council chambers. When the door was opened by the Anbu guard, a wall of noise burst forth, making at least two of the three wish they had just blown this summons off. Unfortunately, they all knew that the matter would not simply dissolve since it involved the village pariah and the heiress of the current, strongest clan in Konoha, so they gritted their teeth and headed in. As soon as they were through the door, the noise level doubled as it seemed that everyone wanted a word with the Hokage. Nodding his two companions to either side of the room, he held his hands up to signal for silence, which was immediately obeyed, although begrudgingly by some. Now, I already have an idea of what this is all about, so I will start with the current issue. The claim is that Uzumaki Naruto seemed to have captured and poisoned two young women. One being Hyuga Hinata and the other as of yet unknown. Have I guessed incorrectly thus far? When no one spoke up, he nodded and continued. Would anyone like to add anything before we hear what happened from both sides of the story? As soon as the words were out of his mouth, there was another chorus of noise before he had to again call for silence. Since this most closely involves you, Hiashi being as one of those affected is your daughter, would you please add what you know of the situation? My daughter was apparently found inside the apartment of this boy. There were no signs of a struggle at that location that we could find, but there was evidence that they were poisoned outside the front door, then drugged through the room and tied up against a wall. From what we could see, it seemed that the owner of the apartment had knocked them out before taking them inside, tying them up and injecting a poison into their bodies. The always calm Hyuga clan head explained his entire view with a straight face, but his grip on the table edge and his whitening knuckles spoke volumes. So you broke into my apartment and had a good look around. Glad to see the almighty Hyuga are not above a little underhanded snooping where they don't belong. I wonder just how much you looked around before being satisfied. I hope you left my bed mostly intact. I could use a good night's sleep after all this crap. Naruto seethed at the obvious lack of respect and the Hyuga's blatant disregard for investigative procedure. Be quiet, boy. You have no right to speak to me as such. Know your place. And you had no right to go through my apartment without the written consent of the Hokage, Hyuga-san. Hiashi was going to give another retort, but was stopped by the Hokage. Naruto-kun is correct, Hiashi-san. You were not given consent and we will deal with that later. Now, does anyone else have something to add? Hiashi glared at the boy once more before settling back into his chair. This time it was Haruno Isako who stood. Yes, Isako-san. I would just like to say that I have seen the accused numerous times around town recently. He seemed to be trying to get close to the Hyuga heiress, possibly to lead her into a false sense of security. This afternoon Hyuga Hinata came into my store, showing another girl around, it seemed. I would assume that was the second girl that is in the hospital. Haku, I believe was her name. Long brown hair, brown eyes. She looked towards the nurse to verify. Seeing a nod, she continued. They must have been seeking out an apartment for this girl as she seemed rather new to the village. Naruto made to say another retort but stopped at a wave from Sarutobi. Okay, anyone else? Most people stayed seated as it seemed they were going to say a similar piece of information. Shikaku-san. All eyes turned towards the Nara clan head. If anyone could find reason in this mess, it would be Inara. Hokage-sama. From what I have heard so far, the evidence does seem to incriminate Uzumaki-san. However, I would prefer to hear the story from those involved if we could. I am interested as to why, if he was the one to abduct and poison them, did Uzumaki-san take them to the hospital? Rather than listen to more one-sided commentary, let us hear from those most directly involved. Finally, someone who had the desire to listen to the other side of the story. Both Hiruzen and Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. Naruto's life being as it was couldn't be that simple, of course. As the Hokage made ready to allow the Yoshike to have her turn, the council chamber door opened and a man they all knew walked in. Danzo, to what do we owe the pleasure? Inuzuka Sume said his name as though it was the worst tasting food she ever ate. Many faces around the room were showing a similar expression, mainly those on the shinobi half. Ah, Hiyashi-sama. I just wanted to let you and Yoshike-san know that your daughter and her companion are stable now. Had I not been there when I had for my headache, I would have feared the worst. I apologize for interrupting any meeting taking place, but... He glanced towards Naruto and seemed somewhat surprised to see him there, but composed himself immediately. But I felt it appropriate that I let Hiyashi-sama know the good news. Now if you'll excuse me, I'll take my leave. I have some important appointments to attend to. Not waiting for a formal dismissal, Danzo quickly left the room. Opening the door to call him back in, Sarutobi found that he was already long gone. Well, at least I know that there will be no permanent damage. No thanks to you, boy. Hiyashi glared at Naruto with pure hatred in his pupil-less eyes. We were just lucky Danzo-sama showed up when he did. Without his help we couldn't have counteracted the poison so quickly. Yoshike said to no one in general. Anyhow, we are all happy that the girls will be safe, but let us continue please. Yoshike-san, if you would. Well, I was sitting at the front counter in the hospital lobby this afternoon when I heard the doors crash open. I looked up to yell at whoever would enter a hospital in such a manner. When I saw that boy walking up to the counter with two unconscious girls slung over him, I rushed over and grabbed them away as any sane person would do. With his reputation, there was no telling what he was going to do, and before I could find out anything about what happened, the boy was gone. I called in 2 beds and after moving them to a room, the doctors examined them to find traces of poison in their system. It was then that Danzo-sama walked by and offered his assistance in neutralizing the poison. With the supplies he carries with him all the time for emergencies, he was able to cure the poison as we've just heard. I suggested he come tell Hiyashi-sama that Hinata-sama was fine while I went to the Hokage to bring up the issue, and a few other doctors went to gather the council. I suppose Danzo-sama heard about the meeting and decided this would be the best place to find Hiyashi-sama. After being delayed outside the Hokage tower for a few minutes due to some disturbance, I was finally able to get in to see Hokage-sama and begin to explain my story before we were called to this meeting. Is that all, Yoshike-san? The woman thought for a moment before nodding to Sarutobi. Alright then, now unless anyone has any questions. I do, Hokage-sama. An elder woman called out from the other end of the table. It was Udatane Kaharu, one of the advisors of the Hokage. Would you please elaborate on what you thought the boy might have had the intention of doing? Well, he yelled at me to get them some beds or he would do it himself, and he said he doubted he would do it as carefully as I would. I assumed he meant that he would cause them more harm if I didn't hurry up and take them from him. And why do you suppose he would have brought them to you and told you to take them from him if he did indeed have intentions to harm them further? Wouldn't it have been easier to not take them to a hospital at all? Sume was confused as to the logic of the statement. A momentary change of heart, I suppose. Perhaps he wanted to get rid of them before something else regained control. Anyone else? Silence reigned throughout the chamber, signifying that there were no further questions. Good. Then we will now listen to Naruto's. Why even bother to listen to the brat? I think we've heard enough already. Haruno-san, everyone is given the right to explain themselves. Even those who speak out unjustly. Now, unless you have something to say in favor of, or against either party, then I would suggest you keep silent for the remainder of Naruto-kun's explanation. That goes for everyone here unless you want me to personally escort you away from this table. From the civilian half of the council, a few gulps were heard as certain people swallowed whatever was about to come out of their mouths. Of the shinobi half, there were only a couple of people chose to glare a little more than was necessary. Now then, the floor is yours, Naruto-kun, Naruto-kun. Faces shifted as the council looked over to find the blonde meditating in the corner. Cough. Naruto-kun. Huh. Oh, sorry Hokage-sama. I was just trying to calm myself. So you thought you would sleep through important discussions. We should throw you out for your ignorance. Quicker than most could see, a seat was empty as they all heard the door to the room slam shut with a rather terse old man walking back to his seat. Few had even registered the Hokage move, but they could all see that he made good on his threat as there was now an empty seat at the table, and most likely a very distraught civilian council member trying to get past the guards and back to the meeting inside the room. Naruto-kun, it's your turn to give your side of the story. Oh, I know Hokage-sama. I just wanted to see if any of them would be stupid enough to tempt fate. Showing off how white his teeth were drew a few giggles from the table as many were reminded of the former prankster, and that the mischief maker was still in there. Well then, if you are done, would you please indulge our fascination and tell us about your day? Sarutobi gave the boy a serious look to let him know there would be no more fooling around. He was only mildly surprised when the flashy grin turned deadly serious in an instant. Hi, Hokage-sama. I will begin with after our debriefing this afternoon. I had some personal matters that I attended to before I went into my apartment for a shower. I created a clone in case anyone stopped by, but it proved to be unnecessary. Afterward I decided to work on some mental discipline at another location for a while. I left my previously made clone at the apartment, again in case anyone stopped by. A few hours later I was brought out of my trance when my clone dispelled. After learning what it had encountered, I immediately rushed to my apartment, broke the door open and found Hyuga Hinata and Momochi Haku bound and unconscious inside. Creating another clone, I picked up both and rushed them to the hospital. You have already heard about that encounter, however I would like to clarify one thing. When I said I would find them beds myself, and not as carefully, I meant that if I had to I would go door to door through the hospital and break each one down until I found the empty beds I required. The reason I did not stick around was so that I could notify Hokage-sama about what had happened and discuss with him what my clone had discovered before he dispelled himself. Unfortunately I didn't get the chance to as Yoshike-san came bursting in when I was about to activate the security seals. After she gave a rushed account we were again interrupted by an Anbu who told us we were summoned to the council chambers. That is all I wish to say in current company. He could see the looks of suspicion around the room, but met each with an unflinching eye. That is all you will say in front of us. We are the village council, boy. You will tell us what you know. Kate Fumahika, a semi-wealthy cloth merchant, spoke with an authority belying his stature. Sir, no disrespect, but the rest of the matter is ninja business only and as such is not meant to be heard by civilian ears. Though it could easily sway matters in my favor, I will not risk this village's safety in order to save myself. He smirked mentally as he knew all they could do was flap their gums at him. These were the laws they themselves agreed upon, and as such they were obliged to follow them. On the shinobi side, however, he was getting more than one appreciative gaze, as it would seem a lesser person would have caved to the demands of the council if it meant they would walk away freely. But hey, why not rub a little salt in the wound while it's open? Again, I mean no disrespect, but I was also wondering what reason the civilian portion of the council has to be in on this discussion. It is, after all, a matter in which all parties reside under the jurisdiction of the shinobi portion of the council. If the gazes were appreciative before, he wasn't sure what to make of it when their jaws hit the floor. The other girl, Haku I believe her name was. She is new to the village and presumed to be a civilian, thus she falls under our jurisdiction. Mitokado Homura spoke with age and authority almost on the level with the Hokage. He was on the same team as Hiruzen and Kaharu, so such a thing was understandable. Yet even with such a presence facing him, the boy didn't flinch. It wasn't Naruto that answered this time though, but Sarutobi who interjected. I should have probably announced this before we started, but Momochi Haku as of this afternoon has agreed to join our ninja ranks. Being already trained as a ninja, I have allowed her to enter right into the ranks at genin level, after the justification of the normal graduation test. She has also already been placed on a team and was going to begin missions as soon as the team saw fit to do so. Though she may be in the hospital for a while due to this recent event, I'm sure her teammate won't mind doing more solo missions in the meantime, will you, Naruto-kun? He smiled at the boy who once again gave a toothy grin back. So in lieu of such information, I ask that the civilian members of this council retire from the chambers. The rest of you may stay and we will continue discussions. His tone was sharp and direct, making no room for question. With only slight hesitation the civilians shuffled out the door, pausing only slightly to glare or sneer at the boy that so easily dismissed their authority. Claps could be heard once the door shut as a few of those left applauded the boy for turning away the more annoying portion of the administration of the village with such ease. Naruto flourished a bow, much to the annoyance of the Hyuga head, and at least one other. Yamanaka Inoichi didn't like the whiskered blonde. He didn't really dislike him either. Being part of the interrogation squad, he instead tried to keep a neutral point of view on every aspect of any dispute. As his job kept him at his workplace most of the time, the only bit he knew about Naruto was what he had caught his daughter saying about the boy during their academy term. From what she said, and what he had seen so far, the Naruto she knew and the one he now faced were two completely different beings, and so far he was impressed but still guarded on his opinion. Hope you don't mind, but I think I'll take a seat now. No one made an objection save for a huff from Hiyashi as the boy hopped up into a chair and faced them. What was interesting was that he chose a seat that would allow him to see them all, and all of them to see him without needing to move an inch. It was a perfect strategy for taking in all actions that transpired, but also left one open to any and all attacks. Either the boy was very brave and this was an open challenge for any of them to prove him wrong, or he had no implications of what he had done and didn't really care one way or the other. So now that we are serious, I will discuss the missing sections of my story. First, I would like to mention that before I left on my mission to Wave, I was confronted by 4 ninja who were dressed similar to an Anbu member. These ninja mentioned that Danzo wanted an audience with me. Ears were now perked up and even Hiyashi was leaning forward a bit. They all knew Danzo was hiding something, but to think that the person everyone loved to hate could be their proof was more than enough to put them on edge. Sarutobi himself was leaning forward as well since he hadn't been told about this encounter previously. I was able to get away the time with a smoke bomb and a kawarimi. They had obviously not expected such an action from an inexperienced genin. Naruto smirked a bit remembering the encounter. So you expect us to believe you took on 4 older ninja and got away? Akamichi Choza was skeptical that a boy the same age as his own son could even come close to tangling with a more experienced shinobi and come out unscathed. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. Quite honestly, I don't care if any of you believe me or not, I'm just saying what happened. Also, I didn't fight them, I just did my best to get away. I knew it was highly unlikely I was going to be able to take them all on. 4-on-1 is difficult enough with people your own skill level, let alone risking such a feat on people you don't know the skills of. Now, that was just so you know that I had already heard somewhat about Danzo. As far as I'm concerned, anyone who uses that much force for a genin is only either the Hokage, the council, or someone who can't risk such an event leaking into general knowledge. So, onto the main event. As I said, the time between my mission debriefing and my arrival at my apartment was personal, so you won't need to know about that. I will skip ahead to the information I gained from when my clone dispersed. Taking a moment, Naruto gathered his thoughts before leveling his gaze with his audience and beginning his story. That's it guys, not the best chapter I know, but things will be picking up a bit soon. Like I said, I may try to push out the next chapter a little early since I feel I shorted you all on this one. Thanks for listening, I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.